Welcome back to another clay tutorial. Today we are going to turn this Toad amiibo into Captain Toad with an LED headlamp. When I first started this project, I never thought it was going to take as long as it did. This was easily a week-long project with many hours a day working on it. I first had this idea maybe a year ago, but I never got around to it because there was a lot of things I didn't know how to do with it, like painting and doing the wiring and soldering. But I decided it's finally time to jump into the project, and I never thought it would have taken as long as it did, but I'm happy with the results and I'd like to make some more amiibos. Now, as you saw, the amiibo is very stiff, so throwing it in some boiling water makes him nice and jiggly. And this is the way we can take apart his body parts, because we need to take him completely apart. I need to run a wire going all the way from the base into the top of his head, so this is going to be quite a project. So most of the parts of the body were really easy to get apart. The only hard thing to do was to get the feet off of the stand or to get his vest off. Those gave me a lot of trouble. After working on the vest for maybe 10 minutes, I realized I don't really actually need the vest because I'm not going to be putting it back on him, so I decided I would just take these wire cutters and just kind of rip it apart because I don't need to save it for anything. I had to throw the base back into some boiling water to get it soft. Now, I don't know if there's an easier way to get these bases apart, but I really hacked this thing apart trying to get it open. It ended up working in the end, but I would like to maybe next time have some method where I don't have to have the base in separate pieces. So this is the contraption that I made here to run the light all the way from the base to the head. I've never soldered anything before, this is my first try, so I thought I would skip that process for you guys because it was a really long process. If you have any questions about the soldering, like the parts I used or anything like that, just leave a comment and ask me whatever you need to ask and I'll get back to you and hopefully I can help you out with what you need. So now we need the drill and we need to make holes through his whole body so the light can fit through it. If I were to do this again, I would definitely run the wires through since they're much smaller than the light and these holes would be smaller. And then I could just solder it at the end and put it right into the base, but I didn't think of that and I already soldered everything together, so we're gonna do it this way. Here you can see I have the same size hole going through all the different body parts. And I have this giant hole in the base, that's where the button is gonna come up through, so we can push it to turn on the light. Now just wiring the light through everything and into the head here. Now we can start super gluing all the body parts back together. Try not to get too much super glue on the wires. I don't know what it is with the super glue, but before I got it on some wires in the past and it started to eat away at the coating on the wire and the wire became exposed, so I'm not sure if maybe the plastic on it reacts with the super glue, but just try not to get any super glue on the wires. Now we can get the button through here and super glue the base back together. And I mean, the base is pretty destroyed, so we're gonna put some of this putty stuff on top of it. We have this milli putt, and this is a 2-part putty, so you mix together these two sides, an even amount of both of them, and it turns into kind of like a clay, I guess you could say. It's very soft compared to the clay that I usually use, but I think that it worked out pretty well for this project anyway. So we're gonna cover up the whole base, and I think this will look pretty nice painted like a grass texture. Now the base is done and we can see the button is still working for the light. So let's take some more putty and start filling in the gaps on his body. If you want to do something like this and you're not really sure what type of putty to use, I would recommend this milli putt because it worked well and it's the only thing I've ever used, but I've also read some people use something called epoxy sculpt and also green stuff. Those are both two different types of this putty you could use. Here we have the bandana or the handkerchief, and we'll add some more creases in that to make it look like it's sort of waving in the wind. We can start working on the headlamp on the top here. This first layer is basically just to secure it into place, and then we'll work on the actual headlamp part here. I think this is looking really nice and smooth, so let's move on to his body some more. We have these little pockets on his shirt. Oh, and I don't think that I mentioned, but this stuff air dries, so you don't have to bake it like I do with the clay. I wanted to originally use clay, but I think that this figure might actually melt in the oven. I read some pretty mixed things about it. Some people said it will melt, some people said it won't. I didn't really want to take the risk, so we're going to use this. It takes about 24 hours until it hardens, but it's hard as a rock when it does, and it takes paint really well. So I think this is a really nice material to use. Now, the only thing that will actually be clay in this whole video is going to be his backpack. I pushed it into his body so we can get a nice shape of his body, and this way when we glue it on, it's going to be formed exactly to the shape of him. Now we have this little scroll at the top. I'm imagining this is some type of treasure map to his next treasure. And the little strap on top here to hold everything together. And for finishing touch, we have a little silver button here, and our backpack is ready to get baked. So we can just set that to the side for now. We don't need that until later. And we can bust out the painting tray, and we'll start mixing some colors here for Captain Toad. This tan color I have really isn't the right color. It needs to be a lot more pale, so I'm mixing a lot of white with it. After we have the color we want, we can mix together some water with it. I've read this is something you should do when you're painting toys, or I guess maybe anything, because then it makes it very thin. You might have to do more coats, but you won't have any brush strokes on it, and I think that just makes it look a lot more smooth. I didn't really know how to show you guys the painting process, because it took a really long time and there was many coats. So I thought I would just show you like the first coat and then the third coat, and you can kind of just see how things are looking, more of like a progress video. So now we can start with our first coat of the red paint. If you haven't checked out the game, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, it's definitely worth playing. It's a pretty awesome game. That's where I got the idea to create this character. I know that Captain Toad's in a couple of other Mario games, but that's kind of his main game, I think. So as you can see, things are looking really nice with our brown and red. Let's break out the gold paint. This will be just for his belt buckle in the front here. That's the only gold detail. But we'll also use some very shiny silver for the headlamp here. Now the yellow I was using is just a little bit pale, so I had to go get another yellow, and I think this one looks a lot better. So now I removed the tape on his head and we'll start painting the base green. I actually didn't show this part, but I painted the bottom part of the base red, and you actually can't really tell that it's painted because I really messed it up. It had that putty stuff on it and super glue and stuff. It was really messy. So now we're going to use the plastic from this bottle. I think this is a really nice idea for the headlamp. It really dulls down the light because it's really blinding bright, and I think that this looks more realistic like an actual headlamp. And now we can use way too much super glue on this backpack. And here it is, guys, Captain Toad. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do with this Toad. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Oh!